All right, hi, and welcome. I am super excited to bring to you guys a really great training to help you power up your follow-up. My name is Andrea Gebhardt. I'm a Black Diamond with Javita, and I'm super excited to get to bring this information and share this information with all of you guys today. Obviously, follow-up is an important part and piece of the prospecting process, and so we're going to really talk about how to make that more effective for you so that you guys can have success while building your Javita business. So let's talk about all of that. Well, first of all, understand that it is all a process. Prospecting is 100% a process. And it starts with, as we know, piquing somebody's interest, right? We have this thing called the Diamond Prospecting System. So we're piquing somebody's interest. We are then sharing tools or information, building their belief. We are then building their belief, sharing some more tools, a little bit more, engaging them with through a phone call, getting them to an event, and of course, helping them get to that point of making a decision and then getting started with us. And so what's really important to remember is that you have to take all of your prospects through the entire process to actually get results. So follow-up really is the most crucial part of the process, as it is what's responsible for moving person from base to base to base to base to base on that Diamond Prospecting System. And we do that through follow-up, which is basically conversation, okay? So if you drop the ball on this, you drop the prospect, and that's not what we want to have happen. And so I'm going to share with you some really great information and some effective ways to really power up your follow-up so that you can be successful. So first of all, or second of all, I suppose, follow-up is key, right? So here's what you need to know and understand. Prospects usually do not join at the end of one exposure, right? So if we share a sample with them, that's an exposure. If we utilize the JConnect app and we send a video or a PDF, that is an exposure. And oftentimes, your prospect isn't going to join after that one thing. It usually takes multiple exposures to educate them fully on the opportunity. And so you have to keep the relationship and you have to keep the conversation going. And that is really what follow-up is all about. So the best products, the best opportunity, the best presentations really mean absolutely nothing without quality follow-up. So most importantly, do what you said you were going to do. So when you pique somebody's interest, when you connect to them first, whether you post something exciting on Facebook, like, I just had my first cup of weight loss coffee, I'm excited, or I'm down 2.5 pounds, I have so much energy, this stuff is great. Or maybe you text a friend to say, hey, do you drink coffee? Or, hey, are you still struggling with chronic pain? Or, hey, are you still dealing with diabetes? Or, hey, I know you had some pretty audacious New Year's resolutions. Have you reached those yet? Right? So you want to connect with them first, and then you're going to share some information with them. More than likely from the JConnect app, a PDF on the product, a video on the opportunity, whatever the case may be. And so the point is, at the end of the first exposure with the prospect, you should set up a specific time to get back in contact with them, whether it's a phone call or another meeting or another exposure, for example. So what I typically do is when I connect with someone and then I share the information with them. So I just J-connected the PDF or the video, right in the very next text, immediately I say, check this out. I'm going to follow up with you later this evening. And that's all that I say. I create the space for myself to follow up with them later, and I am also plugging in a mental note so that they know to expect me to plug in, or not plug in, but follow up with them later, right? So if you said you're going to call them at 7 p.m., call them at 7 p.m. If you said you're going to meet them for coffee tomorrow, meet them for coffee. If you said you're going to set up a three-way phone call or a message with another leader, make sure you have that set up. Always do what you said you're going to do. This is a professional courtesy, you guys. When you say you're going to do something, do it. Your prospects will respect you a whole lot more and know that you are taking this business and this opportunity so much more seriously than probably what they initially set out. So I love this whole presentation. I'm going to tell you right now, this slide right here is my most favorite. In fact, I would encourage you to kind of take either a mental screenshot of it or even take a screenshot of it with your phone right now, because this is what I really want you to understand. So what you see over here on the screen, this image, this is our diamond prospecting system. We start where that arrow is, right? That's where we share. That's where we pique their interest. That's where we connect with them, and we give exposure 1. Right? We give exposure 1. So now we're on first base. We just sent the PDF. We just sent the video. And now I'm going to follow up with you later. I'm going to follow up with you in a half an hour. I'm going to follow up with you tonight around 8 or 9 p.m. after I put my kids to bed, whatever the case may be. And then you have the follow-up, which is that conversation. So, and you can see how it's base, follow-up, base, follow-up. Because remember, follow-up is what moves the prospect from base to base to base to base to base, right? We got to throw the ball, and that happens. Like, I love that we kind of get to use a baseball analogy because everybody can kind of relate to that. But we got to throw the ball to the next base, and we do that, and that's what that follow-up process is. So follow-up really is just another exposure because it gives us an opportunity to connect and communicate with our prospect, handle their questions and their objections, maybe even some of their concerns along the way, and provide more information either about our products or our opportunity that they're looking for, that they need an additional exposure of before they make a decision. So the conversation that moves a prospect from base to base is follow-up, okay? Exposures are what help the prospects make their decisions. So if we know that it's going to take 4 to 7 exposures for somebody to really be excited about coming on board, and that's the average, then we've got to make sure that this process is in full swing. So the more exposures that you can create, the more you are helping them reach their decision. The more exposures you create, the more you're helping them reach that decision. So we start with exposure 1. We follow up, that's like an exposure. Then we get them to base 2. Then we follow up, that's an exposure. Then we get them to base 3, and then we follow up, that's an exposure. And then do you see how that's already 6 exposures between the bases and the follow-up? And if we know it's gonna take those connect points, 4 to 7 of them for that to happen, we gotta get on that, right? We just gotta move them through the process. So when you follow up, it's essential that you set up the next exposure. So what does that mean? What does that look like? So I pique somebody's interest. I sent them a tool. I'm going to follow up with you later tonight. I follow up with them later that night. And maybe they're like, I really like these products, but you know, I'm not a big coffee drinker. Great. What would I send them next? Their next exposure might be the green tea. Oh, wow. We follow up. I'm going to follow up with you tomorrow morning. Great. So what did you love the best about the tea? I love this and this. So is this a business? Absolutely. Boom. Send the next tool. Right? You might engage them in a 3-way conversation. Depending on what the situation is, you want to always keep them moving all along the way from base to base to base. That's the whole point of this diagram and what it's sharing you and showing to you. So follow-up, again, allows you to move from one exposure to the next. So if you don't follow up with somebody, you don't have the ability to move them from one base to the other. They're not going to go on their own. You have to initiate and drive that process. Your job is to educate your prospects about the opportunity to be able to help them come to a decision. Failure to follow up is failing to prospect and decreasing your credibility and ultimately your success. So remember, prospecting is a process. So if we're not following up, we're not doing the process, we're not prospecting correctly. And if we know that prospecting is the key to building our business, then we want to make sure that we're doing that. So understand, again, that it's going to take multiple exposures. It can sometimes take 4 to 6 exposures to help a prospect come to a decision. So you're going to have to follow up with the prospect more than one time. And I'm going to tell you that I think that's like the biggest common misconception is that you only have to follow up once. No, you got to follow up in between every exposure. You've got to continue to follow up. You've got to keep the conversation going. You've got to keep that person moving along in that process. But what's important to remember is that you want to be patient as you meet with your prospects. There is nothing more unattractive than a person in a network marketing business who is desperate, who gets grouchy, who has a short patience or maybe even a short temper when it comes to moving them through the process. You have to remember that, you know, as you meet with your prospects several times to talk about the opportunity, you've got to be patient because everyone's different. So they're going to come to decisions at different rates. Some people are going to see one thing and be ready to roll. Some people it's going to take a little bit of time. Some people it will happen in 2 days. Some people will take 2 weeks. You don't get to decide their timeline. You just get to be in control of the amount of times you create exposure opportunities, ultimately increasing the level of success that you're going to have. So don't get discouraged, you guys, when it takes one prospect longer to understand the opportunity than another. And that's why it's so important to always have people in the pipeline, because you can have different people in the stages of the process the whole entire time, and never run out of that. So during that time, during this follow-up, during moving your person from base to base to base, it's important to really focus on developing the relationship, which is why I love three-way messaging, because it gives me multiple opportunities to engage and interact with the team member and the prospect. And we'll talk about that in a second here. But you know, you can develop the relationship through the follow-up by talking about why you decided to join. Let me share with you why I decided to come on board. Let me share with you some of the different stories, right, of the people who have come on board and had great success with the product or the business. Answer their questions about the compensation plan, the company, the product, any other questions that they have. Use this time in the follow-up. It's not always about like, are you ready to buy? Are you ready to try? Are you ready to buy? Are you ready to try? It's like, no, oh my gosh, let me tell you about why I decided to join. Let me tell you what caught my attention. Let me tell you about my friend's success. Let me tell you about this individual person's success. What questions do you have? Like that conversation can happen in the follow-up as you're moving them from base to base to base. And the more of their questions, concerns, and hesitations you address along the way, the less there are at every base point. So what you're going to find is that at base one, because it's their first time looking at it, they might have some serious questions, concerns, or hesitations. Through follow-up and moving them through the process, we're answering some of those so that by the time we get to base two, they have less questions, concerns, hesitations. We continue to follow up, answer more questions, concerns, and hesitations as they arise. By the time we get to base three, they have very little left, which means in that next conversation, in that next follow-up, in that next exposure, they're able to make a decision and get started because all of it has been handled all along the way. So address their objections and concerns, but most importantly, foster the relationship with them. So for example, I just had one of our team members like 15 minutes ago initiate a three-way text message as a form of a follow-up with her prospect, and I find out she lives in California. So I'm like, well, where in California are you from? She's telling me she's from this area. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a really great friend who lives that place. I love that town. Have you ever been here, and have you ever been there? And then she's like, yeah, I took my kids. Oh my gosh, you have kids? I do too. Send me a picture of your kids. I'll send you a picture of my kids. So understand through the follow-up, it's not always about business. It's developing and fostering a relationship, right? We are networking. We're networking with the people who are potentially going to become a part of our team because, listen, you're either networking or you're not working. There's only one letter that separates the two of those, right? So we constantly want to build relationships, which is what networking is all about, because eventually you're going to have these people on your team. So all of your interactions with your prospects don't have to be about the exposure, where you talk about the opportunity. Be their friend, and they will respect you and listen about your opportunity more, right? So what's really important to remember is that, you know, way back in the olden days of network marketing, we would follow up with somebody, oh, I'll follow up with you in a week. And then like 10 years ago, it was like, I'll follow up with you in 72 hours. And then like 5 years ago, it was, I'll follow up with you in 24 hours. We want to follow up immediately. We want to condense the time in which we follow up and condense the time between the exposures. I mean, think about a baseball game. How boring and how much interest gets lost in a baseball game when it takes forever for the person at bat to hit the ball, and that person just gets stuck on base one and they never take it to base two. The person on base one's getting bored. That player is getting bored. So we don't want that to happen. We want to condense the time between the exposures. So while it may take time for your prospects to make a decision, too much time between exposures can actually do more damage than good. You have to remember, we live in an instant gratification world. We can go online and order groceries and they show up at our door in an hour. We can go online and order furniture and it shows up the next day. We have this sense of instant, quick. We can, in 5 minutes, scroll through a couple of screenfuls and know what everybody in our entire life is doing. And so we have to move at the speed of the feed. We have to move at the speed in which people are fed information on the daily with condensing these time between the exposures. So the opportunity loses heat, guys, if you don't stoke the fire. And every time we follow up, engage in conversation, we're stoking that fire, we're keeping it hot, we're keeping the information, the opportunity, the material, the tool, whatever it is that they saw, fresh in their brain, right? We're keeping the information fresh. We're keeping the emotions that they felt when they saw what they saw, or they read what they read. It's right here. It's relevant. So we want to set up the exposures close together. We want to keep the follow-up close together. We want to move them through there. And even though it's going to take time, that follow-up closes that exposure gap. Because you're in their minds, you're chatting with them, you're answering questions, it's relevant, it's fresh. So what I love is healthy quality follow-up condenses the time between the exposures and the bases, which is really great. So you want to create the exposure, have the meeting, do the three-way call, show them all the video. And I know this says in a week or two, but engaging in that conversation, you want to stay on top of that. You want to follow up right away and build that conversation. You want to keep them on the ride, or they will exit themselves. You got to keep them in the game, or they get up before the ninth inning and they head home. And that's not what we want. So condensing time is so important. Now let's talk about this. A lot of times, one of the most common questions I get when talking about follow-up is, what do I do when they don't respond? What do I do when they don't engage and react? Well, first of all, I'll tell you this. If you correctly prospected somebody, right? Meaning you connected with them first and you shared with them second. This usually is not as big of an issue. However, I like to use this analogy. You guys are going to laugh at me right now, but like, if you did not prospect them correctly, which means you just sent them, you didn't connect first, you just shared something with them first out of the blue, the chances of them responding aren't going to be as great. It's like this. Okay, I just used this the other day. It's like if you're playing Frisbee with somebody, you connect with them first. Hey, Andrea. You make eye contact, you throw the Frisbee so they know they can catch it. If you don't connect and you just throw the Frisbee whoop, and it hits them in the face or it hits them in the chest, or they have to duck and hide from it because they weren't expecting it, they're not going to be too excited. Okay, so don't just go throwing Frisbees at people. Instead, connect with them first. However, sometimes people don't see things, so they don't respond. Sometimes people are, they see your message and they see the information. Oh, wow, that looks really interesting, but I'm at the grocery store, I'm driving. I don't have the chance to look at that right now. And then unfortunately, because of the way technology works, your message gets lost in the shuffle of the day and they don't see it. So one tip I will give you is this. Whenever I send somebody something and I don't hear back from them within a reasonable amount of time, I'll send a little emoji or a Bitmoji and I'll be like, hey, did you see that? Right? And then I'll say things like, I'll check back in with you later today to make sure you got a chance to watch it, whatever, created the opportunity for the follow-up later. But when your prospect doesn't commit to a time or a date, right? You're like, hey, when's as soon as we can talk? When's as soon as we can get together? I want to share this with you, blah, blah, blah. If they don't commit to a time and date, or they just don't respond, it might be a sign that they're just not interested in what you're promoting. So try this. If you've sent somebody multiple things, if you've reached out to them, they're not committing to a time, they're not responding, they're not engaging with you. Well, Mr. Prospect, I don't really want to waste your time. Or, hey, Mr. Prospect, I really don't want to waste your time. And I also don't want to waste my time. If you're really not interested and you're just trying to find a polite way to say no, it's okay. You can just tell me no. It's not going to hurt my feelings. So tell me this. Do you like the concept? Do you see an opportunity for yourself here? Ask one more time. Give them the opportunity one more time. And they might say, you know what, Andrea, I'm just not really into that. I don't have time. I this, I that, like, it's not good for me. I've tried that. Whatever it is, respect it and move on. Okay. So if they say no, one of my favorite lines is like, oh, okay, cool. Clearly it's not a fit for you. And that's okay. But who do you know that wants to make some extra money right now? Or who do you know that's interested in being healthier and making a little bit of extra money? Who do you know? And they might throw a couple names your way. You always want to get that referral. But it's fear of commitment sometimes. Sometimes they don't want to commit because they're commit to the call, commit to the video, commit to the webinar, commit to the things because they're just not interested. Or maybe they just have a fear of commitment that they need to address. And so it's always good to just check in and find out. I would rather clear people off my list than just have them waiting in limbo where it takes an emotional toll on me because I'm over here beating myself up because they didn't respond. Who wants to deal with that? So it's a simple process. Okay, so here's what I do. This is personally what I do, what I teach, what works, what's great, effective methods. There's lots of different things out there that you can do, but here's what I have found to be the most effective. So when I follow up, guys, here's one of the things I'll say. So I just sent you a video. I told you I was going to follow up with you later tonight. I'm following up with you later tonight, and here's what it looks like. Did you get a chance to review the video, the brochure, the magazine, the PDF, whatever, okay? My next question to them, they'll say, yeah, I did. I watched it. Great. Great, Andrew. What did you like the best? And I'll just listen and listen intently for cues and clues of what they talk about. Are they excited about product benefits? Are they excited, or do they love some of the business benefits? Like, I'm really listening for everything so that when I get to share, I can kind of like place Javita into their life and how it will serve and benefit them based on what they already shared with me. So I listen intently for those clues. I don't interrupt. I just listen. And I say things like, you know, me too. I also liked A, B, or C, whatever those things were. You know, and you know what else I really liked about Javita's opportunity? You know what else I really saw with the business? You know what else I really excited about their products was this. It was the affordability. Right? Or maybe it was a simplicity, or the fact that I didn't have to go on a crazy restricted diet. I could just drink the coffee, be mindful when I eat, lose the weight. You know what else I really liked about the business opportunity? The fact that they have a tuition payment program. Like, I'm going to have 4 kids in college pretty soon. So if I can start, you know, earning some of that, that would be pretty amazing. What do you think about that? What do you think about that college tuition part? What do you think about the residual income part? What do you think about earning free product, right? So you're engaging and you're sharing with them maybe parts of it that they didn't quite capture or see, but you have a sense of because you've been a part of the business. And so I asked, so what do you think about that? And we'll talk, we're having discussion, right? And this is all happening. It can be happening over Messenger, over text, over a phone call, over FaceTime. It can happen lots of different ways. But then here's what happens. We hit the transition. How do you move beyond sharing, right? How do you go from sharing to selling? How do you go from sharing to closing, right? We're connecting, we're sharing, we're closing. So how do we now move into that arena? And this is where I find most people get stumped. And I call it the stump hump. Because if you get stumped, you're not going to make it over that hump of helping them to get a decision. You're just going to sit there like a scared little puppy to be like, what do I say next? Right? Like, what do I say? I'm going to tell you what to say. Aren't you excited? Like, here it is. Okay, so here's what you could say. With respect to getting started, right? So Andrea, with respect to getting started now, we've talked about all this and you've seen all this and we've shared all this. Where would you say you are on a scale of 1 to 10 with being not being interested at all, and 10 being ready to get started right away? Where would you say you are on a scale of 1 to 10? And I wait and I listen and I see what they say. And then we go from there. So I call this tossing the trash, right? Taking out all the trash, getting all the things out of the way that could serve as obstacles and objections, right? Because you're going to have somebody who might say to you, you know, I'm kind of like I'm kind of like a 7. So that to me is a sign that they just need more information. So you can always ask, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? Or in terms of getting started, what other questions do you have, right? So you've got their number, you know where they are. Well, what questions do you have before you get started? Let them ask, well, how old is the company? How much is the product? How do you earn free product? What's the first step? What do I need to do? What does this really look like? Answer their questions, right? What else? What other questions do you have? I love to take out the trash, all the things in the way between me and them and getting it started. Tackle their questions right up front to diminish any concerns, fears, or worries. Enroll them online, get them moving forward, right? So a lot of times you're going to engage before you get to this point, right? Sometimes we're going to engage in some of that follow-up in a three-way message to get help from a leader to really bring that around. But here's the deal. Like, here's what I've noticed. And I don't know if this is in like the next slide, so I'm almost nervous to even go there with it, but I'm just going to say it anyway. What I've noticed is that when I get people who are like, well, and they start getting negative. Well, I just don't know if this, and I just don't know if that, and they're hesitant, and they're this, and they're that. Like, I'm kind of thinking, you know what, maybe this isn't for them, right? Maybe this isn't something they need to be a part of, because it doesn't sound like their mindset's definitely not in the right place. So, oh, I have it. See, it's here. I knew it. So in order for your business to grow, right, you have to increase the exposures, AKA you have to talk to more people. The more people you're talking to, the more people you follow up with, the more people you're moving from base to base to base. So you want to talk to a lot of people, right? We want to talk to everybody, guys, but you don't want all of them to join your business. I'm sure so many of you guys just went like, wait, what? Did she just say that? Did I just hear that right? Was she talking too fast? Did I not catch that? Let me say it again. You want to talk to everybody. You want to talk to a lot of people, but you don't want everyone to join. Because not all people are cut out for network marketing. Right? There's the negative people who, if they come on board negative, they're always going to be negative to everything. They're going to give you the headaches. There's the non-committal. Well, I don't know. The people who can't commit to the time to do this and the time to do that aren't going to commit to downloading the app and sharing the information and plugging into the webinars and plugging into the calls. The fearful. Well, I'm afraid of what people are going to think, and I'm afraid of this, and they're going to be so fear-oriented, they're not going to take action. And then the excuse makers. Well, I really want to do this, but I have to wait for like 3 months when I get paid, or I really want to do this, but I got to wait until this, or this, or this. And I want it, but. Then they become I want to get started, but this. I want to have success, but that. I want to but, right? So there's people sometimes who come to the table and they're just not cut out for this, they're not right for this. And I'm going to tell you something. That thought right there really was a game changer for me and a mental mind shift. And let me tell you why. Because a lot of times people fear prospecting because they're so concerned with whether or not people are going to say yes. They're so afraid of the no. It like almost is debilitating and holds them back. Well, listen, obviously some people are going to say yes and some people are going to say no. That's the name of the game and that's okay. But what I really want you to recognize and realize here and moving forward, like have this mental mind shift with me here, is that prospecting, it's not about them saying yes or no. It's about you qualifying them as a person for what we do. With every exposure and every follow-up, we're really kind of seeing if they're the right person for the gig. Do they have what it takes? Are they going to engage? Are they going to help themselves be successful, right? So this process has nothing to do with you and whether or not they are joining you, but it has everything to do with qualifying the people to see if they're a good fit for our opportunity. That's what it's about, right? And when you think about it that way, it kind of takes the pressure off. Because halfway through building that relationship, through going from exposure to follow-up, you're going to be like, man, this person's really negative. They're really this. They make a lot of excuses. They have a really hard time committing. And you might be able to realize, like, and then what will happen is when those people, because those are the people who say no, those are the people who decide not to do it, you're going to be like, whew, thank God they made that decision and I didn't have to make it. Right? So I think that is so liberating. And I think that is so kind of like empowering to really think about. Like, we're taking them through the process to see if they qualify for the gig, right? And sometimes things about a person are revealed through the exposures and the follow-ups that make us both realize that, like, nope, this isn't for me. And you're like, oh God, I'm so glad that's not for you, because you might not be for me. So not everyone is cut out for this, and that is okay, right? It's totally okay. I mean, I'll share a story with you. Not everybody's cut out for everything, right? Like, I remember going to college and I always wanted to be a teacher, but then I kind of got this like wild hair that I wanted to be a doctor. I sat in one OChem class in college and I was like, yep, nope, I'm never going to be a doctor because OChem is not for me. I wasn't cut out for that. Does that make me any less of a person? No, there's certain people who are good fits for everything. And so it's exciting that people can naturally weed themselves out of the process when we take it through them properly. So remember this, through prospecting and following up, you are not trying to get them to join, you are qualifying for them for the opportunity. So let's talk about firing up your follow-up here. You are going to utilize JConnect probably as your main way of prospecting. That's our intentional prospecting is with JConnect. Of course, we have our unintentional prospecting that can happen through a Facebook post or a conversation at the grocery store or whatever. And you always want to remember, we go through a process of connecting, sharing, and closing. That's what we're doing. We're connecting them through engagement, we're sharing the information, and then we're closing them. We're moving them through that process and helping them make a decision. So always ask yourself, did I connect with this person first before you send them something? Don't just get share happy. Just because it's easy, don't get sleazy with it. Everybody says, I don't want to be a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. Then they come on board and we give them the tools and they magically become a salesperson because they just start slinging right Frisbees at people who aren't looking, and then they wonder why nobody wants to join because they turn into a salesperson magically the moment they got started, and we don't want that to happen. So always ask yourself, did I connect with this person first? Okay, if you did, great. If you didn't, connect first. So the minute you get the notification from your JConnect app that they viewed something, they looked at a video, they read the file, you want to immediately text and initiate, oh my gosh, Andrea, I saw you checked out the video, I saw you checked out the brochure. What did you love best? What did you like the most? Get in there, right? Get in there and start that follow-up so you have the ability to move them to the next exposure. So that's one question you can ask. What did you like best? After reading or watching, blah, 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 did you have any questions? Find out what their questions are. Could you benefit from these products and earning extra income? So lots of different ways that you can kind of start facilitating that follow-up and asking some of those questions. And these are questions that aren't going to always happen the first follow-up. These questions might happen at different points in the follow-up. But what I'll share with you is that like one of my favorite things to do is I love to say bottom line when I'm with somebody and I'm working on helping them close in on a decision. Like I really love all of it. I don't have any questions. Or, you know, I love all of it. I have a couple of questions. Bottom line, Andrea, answer one question for me because then I kind of know how serious you are about this opportunity. Bottom line, answer one question for me. Do you or your family need to be healthier? Yes. Okay, great. So do you or your family need to be in a better financial situation? Okay, great. So if I sent you some more information on how we can make that possible, would you take a look at it? Great. Boom. I'm going to send an opportunity video now, for example. I'm going to follow up with you later tonight. Create the opportunity. If they're excited, who else do you know that would be excited about this? Who else would be excited to learn about this? And, you know, these are the types of things, these little like scripts, if you will, or these little conversation kickstarters are ways to fire up the follow-up process, right? Because we get into the follow-up and it's like, well, what do I say? What do I do next? How do I move this forward? Right here it is. Here's several different ways that you can absolutely do that. So a lot of times, the follow-up process can be moved along by finding out what else they need. Do you know, before you make a decision, do you need more information on the product? Or do they need information on other products? Do you need more information on the business? And then create another exposure based on that. They need more information on the business? Great. What's the next video? They need more information on the product? Great. What's the next video? This is a great time right here when they need more information, like right at that follow-up, like right when they've watched something, I'm like, oh my gosh, you watched this, what do you like best? Great, you love the products, awesome. I'm gonna add you to our social learning page called Discover Javita, and there's so much more information outside of what you're seeing here. Go drop them in, go tag them in, go message them in there, handle it, right? This is also a great time to initiate a three-way call, three-way text, or three-way direct message. So people always ask me, when do I start that message? It's during the first follow-up. What did you love the best? I love this and this and this. Great, I'm super excited. And then boom, just initiate the conversation. So I'll show you a little bit about what that looks like. So you can go from JConnect to a three-way phone call right there, right at that first follow-up. You know, I'd love to introduce you to my friend so-and-so has been doing this longer than me, is practically an expert, can answer any questions you have, and share really great info with you to help you decide to get the best way to move forward. You know, if they start talking about the business, you can pick a business testimony to kind of follow up with. When they seem hesitant, this is a great time. So if they start talking about the business, good sign to engage them in a three-way call or three-way text message. If they seem hesitant, like, well, I'm really excited, but I'm not really sure how this works, or, you know, maybe they're hesitant because it's you and maybe you've never run a business before, or maybe, you know, they know you a little too well. This is a good time to bring them into a three-way call or message. So when it comes to the three-way message, I'm going to tell you, just do it. Don't think about it. Don't overthink it. When you go to follow up, that first follow-up, that's a great time to engage in a three-way message. Great time. Text your leader, whoever you're going to engage with. Hey, Andrea, I'm going to start a three-way message with you and one of my prospects. Boom. So I know to expect it, right? And so sit back and let the conversation happen and learn from the whole entire process. So I'm going to give you some examples. These are actual conversations that I have had that have come from different people in the team and the organization. So you can see over here on your left, this is a message that Susie started between me on Facebook, between me and her prospect, Rosanna. Rosanna, this is somebody that she already added her to Discover Javita, and once she checked out some of the information on Discover Javita, she did a three-way message with us. So you can see how she started out. I'm excited to introduce you to Andrea. She's one of the leaders of the page. She's practically an expert. She loves meeting new people who join our community. Boom. And then she tells me about Rosanna and what she's doing, and now I go in and start the conversation. Oh my gosh, Lifestyle 30, amazing. Let me show you my before and after, blah, 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 right? Here's one that just happened last night. This message right here, guys, this one in the middle with Danette, it happened last night. She added her to Discover Javita. She started this 3-way text message, and she just joined today, like literally just came on board right now. So Jessica, this is my good friend Andrea, I grew up with and trust early. She can help you with any information you need. She's been doing this for 6 years and has a lot of experience with the product. Please ask any questions or share what you think. So her thing was like, she's not a coffee drinker. So, you know, she just has these questions, and I jumped right in there, handled all of her questions, asked more questions, got to know her. We did some voice memoing back and forth, and okay, Siri, I don't need you to understand. And she came on board. And then here is another example of another 3-way text message that got started, and a little bit of what that looked like, just to kind of give you guys an example of what those look like. So 3-way text message, 3-way direct message, let the leader lead the way. Let the leader get in there with you and create additional exposures, follow up, and help that person come to a decision for you. And what I love about 3-way messages is that they can happen throughout the day. They can happen, you know, over time. So you're not having to find a time to schedule a call where everybody and everything comes together. It can happen. The conversation can carry on throughout the bits and pieces. So this conversation started last night around 10 o'clock, went probably back and forth for a little while here and there, back and forth a little bit while this morning, and she came on board. So that's super duper exciting, but just an example of how powerful that is and how great it works. So when you are thinking about the process of connecting, sharing, and closing, and successfully transitioning from the share to the close, here are some really great things that you can do. So how do I transition from the share to the close? What can I say? Here are some scripts for you. Now that you've reviewed the information, how would you like to move forward? Now that I've answered your questions, how would you like to move forward? Now that you've reviewed the information, now that you've answered the questions on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to get started? If their score is somewhere between a 1 or a 5, they're probably going to need another exposure. If their answer is between a 5 and an 8, they probably have additional questions or concerns. This is where we want to initiate a 3-way. If they're 9 plus, my next question would be, okay, great, which package are you ready to move forward with? Let's get you started today. Simple, clear, easy, guys. These are the tools that we're delivering to help you be successful. So just remember that follow-up is nothing more than just continuing the conversation. Okay, the follow-up are the midpoints that we're on to move people between the basis. And follow-up is 100% a process. It's not a one-time event. There's no such thing as following up with somebody one time. We follow up, we move them to a base, they get another exposure, we follow up, we answer any questions, concerns, or objections, we move them to another base, we follow up, we help them make a decision, boom, we get them started. And follow-up is 100% required for success. And so I hope that this information was, in fact, I'm not going to say that. I know this information was really helpful for you guys. Our role and our goal as leaders is to constantly provide you with the tools, the techniques, and the strategies to help you become successful, add value to your Javita journey every single day. If you guys have any questions about this information, please, please, please reach out. Expect more quality training coming your way that's going to help you grow a successful Javita business. Again, if you have any other questions, guys, just let us know.